right. We got a great show today. I'm back. We have Coach D obviously below me here, back as usual. And then we have our great guest today, Coach Tatum. Coach Tatum's high school coach, but really specializes in his expertise on the offensive line. And he's got all kinds of great content with respect to that. You could spend. He's at it's Walkertown, right? Is where you
Yes, sir. Walkertown.
Right? Yep,
Yes, sir.
yep. And in addition to his OC duties, he really does a great job both on Instagram and Twitter with like putting out stuff from the offensive line standpoint, techniques, clips, things like that to really help athletes and coaches, right, get better with the offensive line. So, without further ado, Coach, it's great to have you on.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm humbled to be asked to come on and join y'all. I love doing this because I'm usually on y'all side, right? I'm usually hosting these things and usually talking, getting guests on. So I love to come on and just talk and kind of not let the pressure's off because I gotta hold up my end of it, but I get to actually participate instead of asking the questions. So yeah, I love this.
You get to enjoy yourself a little bit.
Yeah. not having to produce and making sure things are coming in and out and asking the questions. Yeah. So yeah, this is great.
No doubt. Talk about your background as a coach and obviously also all the things you're doing and kind of some of the things that you're really looking to get across there.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been coaching for 10 years, predominantly high school. I here in North Carolina. I played some private school ball in high school. Got an opportunity to be a preferred walk-on at Gardner-Webb University right outside of Charlotte. After a year, I decided, hey, I really want to get into coaching. So as a student assistant, I was helping the offensive line coach from helping with meetings to setting up practice to doing filming and all that type of stuff. So basically, was like a grad assistant, but not in grad school. So did that. From there, I transitioned to coaching some private school ball and some middle school ball. So I volunteered for 4 years at a college. I coached a varsity and JV and in middle school. So I coached 3 different squads for 4 years, all volunteer. So kind of got my feet wet real fast. I kind of, it was a grind, right? I would substitute teach in school, and then I would go straight to middle school practice. Then I would leave and drive about 30 to 35 minutes to the Greensboro area to coach until about 8 o'clock at night. So that was before I was married. So I was able to do that and did that for 4 years. And then I moved to Virginia Beach. Was at Tallwood High School right before COVID. This is 2019 at that point. Great time out there. But I went from coaching, not as much talent in middle school to coaching 6A ball. I had 5 seniors in my group that started for me, and I learned a lot, do's and don'ts, just kind of, as a young guy. And then COVID hit. I ended up coming back home. I was at a small 1A school, called North Rowan High School. I was there for 3 years, and that's where a lot of this stuff that I do now really took off because I got in with a coach. The head coach there was a college coordinator, an offensive line coach there at South Carolina State. Nigel Pearson, huge mentor of mine, and that's where we really developed. Hey, this is where we're going to really start getting this offensive line stuff going, especially in my head. Like I thought I knew a little bit. I knew enough to be dangerous to get my guys going, but then I really started to develop as a coach. So I was with him for 3 years, and now going into my 3rd year here at Walkertown, being a coordinator and just offensive line coach, had a lot of success this past year. Went 8-4. Lost in the second round of the playoffs to a team we beat in the second week of the season. So that was a little heartbreaker. But that last 10 years have been a blast coaching. I'm the first one to say I don't know everything. I don't. But I know it's made us successful, and I know some things that I believe in. So that's a little bit of the coaching side. Outside of coaching, with social media and just my own personal brand, especially through my X and YouTube, at Coach Tatum. I want to help coaches, and I want to just share some things that we're doing, some things that I've seen be successful. And then a lot of times, one of the big things that really started was Having young offensive line coaches hit me up, be like, "Hey, coach, man, I just got thrown into coaching offensive line. Either I played it in high school, and so like I'm the only other guy that can coach it, or it's a veteran on the staff, and the coach trusts them, so they just thrown in offensive line, but they've never done it before. So that's what we really have started to hone in on coaching offensive line through all the social media platforms. And I love it. I hope we host clinics all day, our all day clinic. I think we do a really good job. Toot our own horn there for a second, but had about 1,500 coaches at the end of January come on, and we had 24 guests, 30-minute intervals from 8 o'clock to 8 p.m. All day for me. It's a long day, but I enjoyed it. So it's just high school and college coaches come on and just give them their time, and it's all free. So and then we have a coordinator one at the end of March. It would be the same deal. So really good stuff that we decided to hone in on and really start doing with social media. And I get a term that I don't like is big time. When you get called big time, it's kind of like you're too good for people. So I hate that term. Whenever I see people at clinics, oh, it's Tatum's big time. Like, no, that's not me. Like I try to be humble, try to kind of just trying to help. Right, I really am. So that's a little bit what we're doing. And it's off season now, so I love clinic season.
No doubt about it. That's pretty impressive. 1,500 people coming to that clinic.
Oh yeah, I was a part. I was fortunate enough to. That's kind of where I linked up with Coach and kind of just watched the entire process of how that whole thing went down. I mean, it was impressive. It was impressive to hit it on like that every time, and he's troubleshooting and doing what he's got to do, and it was just, and all for free too. So, a lot of good stuff that kind of went into that, and extremely impressive is that what you're doing, Coach.
Yeah, that was our third one that we this year was our third one, and kind of gotten worked out some kinks. Whereas I stopped people like, hey, 30 minutes is up, we gotta go, because
because you'll
schedule was getting off, and because I was kind of like, well, it's good stuff, but nah, hey, cut them off, boom. And then this was our biggest one so far, and then hopefully the one in the end of March will be great. But next year, I know the fourth one's going to be even bigger. So yeah, I love doing it.
It's incredible when you get all those people together. I have run, me and Derek run a lot of events, so we know the troubleshooting end of things and how it all can work. So that's really cool stuff. Many years ago, I could have used someone like yourself when I got thrown into the fire of being an offensive line coach, and it was tough because we won the state championship that year, and the head coach I had coached with him previously, and he brought me back. He said, "Yeah, it's the addition of doing the special teams, you're going to do the O line," and I was like, "Wait, what?" I had been a head coach before, so but it's funny because that's really where I learned O line play was when I was thrown into the fire there, and I dove into everything I could. So it's awesome to see the resources that you're providing for coaches, because that is something that happens a lot of times. Someone's a head coach and they have a coach that they really like, and they think this guy could really be good, or they trust and they figure he'll just figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, you're like, especially the first time you're doing it, right? So it's really interesting, and it's completely different. Like I always said, when I went to O line as an assistant, that was my most challenging and rewarding year up to that point because of the guys, and even being a head coach, it was actually, I thought, doing it for the first time was more challenging being an offensive line coach for the first time than even being a head coach, because you had to know the intricacies of what's going to happen on every single play. And you can't match the experience until you actually do it. But obviously, having resources to help you is a huge thing. So talk a little bit about first of all how you really started to hone your craft as an offensive lineman, and what were some of the things that you initially learned as you know, I mean, it's really interesting because you start as a student assistant. And I think that's a bigger trend now too. Like a lot of guys going to play in college and they realize, you know what, I ain't gonna maybe go to the NFL. You know, I'm a good player, but like, you know, you play for a couple of years and you're like, you know what, let me see what, you know, I want to be a coach. Like, let me just flip over and do this thing now. Like, you know what I mean? Let me stop wasting time. Even though and the two things are different things. Like they're related, very related, but they're different, right? So talk about when you really first started, what you started learning, and some of the things that you started putting together offensive line to really kind of scale you up there.
Yeah, so I guess when I was in school, my offensive line coach Kenny Ray, great dude. We still talk to this day, and he's not Miles College down in Alabama, D2 HBCU, and so I just everything, just picked his brain, right? I'm a watcher. I observe more than talking. I feel like when you talk, you get in the way, right? So I watched his process, whether it be drills, whether it be the way he conducts his meetings, breaks down film, recruiting, all that type of stuff. Because I was like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I need to start doing this now. And so whether it be scheme is scheme. And I tell people like plays are awesome, and I love plays like anybody else, but that stuff will change based off of personnel, or tweaks to it. But your process, what drills do you do? How like your way you relate to guys, right? The relationship you build, all that stuff won't change, right? It might change player to player, but it's not the overarching thing. It's not going to change. So just kind of learning from him for 2 years was a great resource. I could ask him any question I wanted, right? And that's the best thing you can do. From there, once I started to coach middle school ball, it was troubleshoot. It was those guys are like chickens with their head cut off. They're just all over the place, right? The middle schoolers, they don't know any better. So trying to figure out that process. And my head coach for the middle school, he'd been coaching for 40 plus years, right? He's this old dude that's getting ready to retire. So he had seen everything, right? He in a lot of conversations with that. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is just mentors and just people resources you could talk to. Because even when I started coaching, private school ball, it was kind of just me, right? My head coach was a great man. He was like, I want you to make it your own. Right, like he knew offensive line play, but he said, make it your own. I want you to fail because I want you to succeed on the back end. So I was able to do a lot of different things, figuring out my own process and figuring out what do I like, what I don't like, what works, what doesn't, and how to communicate with the kids. So I think it's a combination of having guardrails, those mentors so you can bounce ideas, and then having freedom to kind of experiment. So I had the best of both worlds there. And then again, just I've predominantly worked for offensive line guys, so that really helped me as well. Like I said, when I got to North Rowan, Coach Pearson, he was a college offensive line coach. Like that's nothing better than that, right? So I've had two in a span of like 7 years that I got to work for and find out their process. So that kind of that helped me. And then doing the YouTube and Twitter, a lot of guys don't have that, right? Like I said, like they just get thrown into it. So some things that I've like, hey man, I've known this for most of my career. Some guys like I have no clue what you're talking about. So that's what well, let's share some knowledge, right? I don't know it. I didn't invent it, right? It was given to me, so why don't I share what I have? So that's kind of the whole process there.
Angles and levels of attack from an offensive lineman, shoulder pad level, when to kick and pass game, when to kick hard, when to be under control. Well, there's so many nuances of the offensive line position, and then couple that in with scheme, right? So, are you a zone heavy? Are you pin and pull? Are you a power team? So there's so many different things that go into it. What is the baseline of where you start with your players and your advice to coaches from that standpoint What does ground zero look like, and how do you build up from there?
Yeah, I think it depends on what personnel you have, and kind of your own knowledge base. If you've only been a zone guy, inside outside zone, the only you've ever done, right? Then you probably need to start there. If you don't know much about a gap scheme or even like what we call a man scheme, probably don't want to start there with your kids, and then vice versa. But also it really is skill dependent. If I have just some huge bruisers, yeah, probably want to run one more zone, right? Because I need them just to step and get other double teams and let's road grade. And then you have your smaller guys that are tough, or that can pull and that can down block like a champ. I'm doing a little more gap scheme. So it really is a pick your poison based off what kind of kids you have. Now for us, we're gap scheme. Like I am gap scheme forever, right? We run zone, but that's where I'm gonna hang my hat on, right? But like I said, it is based off what you guys. If you don't have a kid that can pull, why are you pulling?
Right.
You're not setting them up for success. So now I feel like I can teach a kid to pull. Now if you're just unathletic, then dang. But good luck. Yeah, good luck. You ain't winning many ball games regardless. But teach them those how to pull and different things, whatever kind of pull you're trying to do. And find the guys that are successful at it, and I feel like you can do that. But yeah, it depends on what you know wholeheartedly, and then what you can teach, and what kind of personnel you got.
It's a great point, and it's funny because when I first started, I was like a big zone guy, big huge zone guy, and as a head coach, and then as an assistant, even though I came from my first assistant job, we were literally triple option. So, but when I took over as a head coach, became a big zone guy, and then the guy who hired me threw me on the offensive line, wanted to run a lot of zone schemes. So it was like really good fit. We had we had like basketball players as like linemen, you know what I mean? So they would just get moving and they would get on you, and we had backs that would figure it out, So I was for when I took over next time as a head coach, I was just like, man, all you gotta do is just run zone, man, and it's all day. The backs figure it out. And all of a sudden I had no linemen. I had two guards that were they were actually fullbacks who had to make guards because there wasn't a, you know what I mean? Yeah. There wasn't anything. And I started doing some like pin and pull with them because they could pull. And I was like, wow. And we ran. The team was okay. It was an okay team. It wasn't a great team. It was a middle of the road team. But they ran for acres because those two little stocky guards would pull. They'd be coming around, and they would pick up that block every time the back would hit it. And they ran. It was one of the most yards that we ever rushed for as any program I ever coached. And like I said, it was an okay team. It wasn't a great team overall, but they had a great offense because of those two little suckers would come around, and they were smart as hell. Yeah. They were smart as hell, right? And they would tell the other guys, like they would literally stand in the line. They would tell the guy who was supposed to the tackles who were the down block. They would just tell them, "You're down blocking here," and they they just wrap right around them, and they would do it all day. Yeah. And it was great. And I was like, man, I gotta start doing more of this. So I was like in the half and half world, and then I started to realize that pin and pull, I could do a lot more with big guys. I could do a lot more with small guys. And then I really would run zone if I had to run jet or something like that. You know what I mean? Or needed like a switch up type of thing. So I became heavily, like almost exclusively, a lot of pin and pull. And then just run it for like a jet, or if I needed inside zone, like, or zone read as like as a switch up. But really, I did most of the greatest thing about pin and pull is you're still reading off that backside end. You're just wrapping guys around, and it makes it more effective for the back, right? So that was what I loved about it. So talk about before we talk about technique and stuff, personnel. Like what is it about? And I touched on it briefly, but pin and pull and what you've seen has really helped like the kids that you work with be able to do well in the offensive line with that?
Yeah. So referencing what you just talked about, how your two guards were like fullbacks. Like I've always said, a fullback's a third guard and a tight end's a third tackle. Like
Yep.
so that's what I believe. Especially being a run first guy. But I think pin and pull, for us, we've used it as a tag on the front side, outside zone, and we've used it as a whole play. Some people would say, "Oh, buck sweep." To me, it's different. And I love the argument and the debates on that some of that stuff. But I guess for on the front side, outside zone, especially for again against odd front, you got head up techniques. We'll tell this guy or a 4-eye on the front side. We'll tell that tackle, hey, just pin that thing down. The guard will just fold around you. Now the back side, so the center back side, they're still running outside zone, but we'll fold around with the guard just to get to the alley or get into that middle backer a little quicker, right? So we've done that as a tag, or we've done it as a full play where everybody, if you don't have a backside defender on the first level, you're pulling. Simple rules, right? If you have it down, take it down, right? So your backside, head up backside, take that guy. If you don't, you're pulling. Just if you're the first puller, which usually is either going to be the play side guard or the center, you're going to have to trap up the edge. Everybody else is pulling and wrapping. I think it's simple rules. I know zone is simple, right? The process is not simple, but what you have to, who's doubling, who covered, uncovered, that stuff can be simple, but you got to rep it 1,000 times. Whether you're full doubling it or you checking hips and climbing, stuff like that, or staying on it, that stuff can get a little more complicated. But who's going where, zone, step play side, right? At the end of the day, step play side, block your gap. That could be a little more simple, but
that's a great point. That's a great point you made there. Zone, in theory, is simpler from a concept standpoint. When you explain to somebody, almost anybody can get it pretty quickly. Yeah. Pin and pull is a little more difficult for people to understand in theory, but in practice, when you're teaching it for the linemen, I think it's easier because the double team aspect can be very difficult in zone because you really need guys that, can play with their head up and pick up things as it comes along the way. And
it happens on the fly,
right?
Like you got to kind of know each other a little bit, right? Yeah. Like, hey, like this guy we'll be okay here, or and it's kind of changes game to game against who you're going against a lot, right? Because determining how, can we get this guy on the regular, and then maybe we can't, you know what I mean? There's just a lot to that has to be kind of, learned through the fire, really. Right. Yeah, and how the live rep aspect of it, right? Like, you know what I mean? The other stuff has concrete rules, and this is what we're doing, and now we're good to go.
Yeah, I think with zone doubles, especially for right now, like spring stuff going into the summer, I work those zone doubles like every day. Because I changed. It's not the same as the gap double, and I can talk about that in a second. Right. But the zone double, I have them over communicate, right? That is a standard of playing for me. You have to over communicate. I'm talking about like exaggerate, right? So if we're doubling and me, like you, like whatever he needs to be, right? Or shoving a guy off, because eventually, if they're playing at each other like all spring, all summer, then it can almost be nonverbal, right? I can feel, pressure, he's knocking me off. I can take over. But I know they've been communicating and yelling at each other. They know who's coming on, who's coming off on their double teams so much that they can get almost nonverbal by the time we get into the season. But for gap doubles, especially like say power or counter, I know if we're going to double a 3 technique to a backside linebacker, it's not as immediate, right? There's not as much of a threat right now. Whereas in zone, we're going to what I call an on linebacker, a stacked guy. More often than not, that guy can just plug right now, and we got to come off right now. Whereas going to a backside, he's over there, right? So I know my tackle for let's say it's a 3 technique. My tackle, we work gallop, where you're stepping down, you're knocking over, a 3 technique. I tell them the main objective of this double team is to put this guy in the A gap, and you're climbing to a linebacker. That's the number one objective. Now, will things get muddy? Will that guy be a war daddy down there and entrench himself? Sure. Knock the hip over and let's go. So it's not happening as now because we're trying to build a wall versus trying to cover up a linebacker that's coming downhill so the running back can make us right. So yeah, I think that's why I think gap scheme's a little bit easier because you're not you're building a wall versus I'm having to go block a dude now. So and I don't know. I think the way we teach it, I teach all my guys to play. I don't specialize certain dudes like, hey, you're a right tackle. All you need to know on power to the right, you're blocking down. Like, and that's all he knows. He doesn't know we're pulling anybody. He don't know where the back's going. Like, I try to teach my guys the whole thing. I feel like
I like that.
Once kids know why, they're going to buy
exactly.
in, right?
Especially with these type of kids, right, that we're dealing with now, like this generation, they always want to know everything, right? So, look, I understand why guys do it that way, right? It's simple. It's, hey, you only have to know this. You only But I just think when, especially being a secondary player playing in as a safety, like I wanted to know everything that everybody was doing. It just fit together. It helped me fit the puzzle better when I knew what this guy was doing, that guy was doing, everybody, so they can kind of fit into it. And it's the same way with offensive line play. When you could teach every guy what's going on, like I just feel like they get it more.
Well, and if a guy on the play side is blocking down, if he just knows you're just blocking down, he's like, all right, well, I step here and just stop. I block down, right? But if I show him, hey, if you're trying to get this guy into the A gap to build and build a wall, there's a guy pulling around, right? And the running back's following him. So the more movement you get on this V gap defender, put him into the A, and build our wall here with our double team, the better the play is going to be. Oh, well, that makes sense, right? So now I know I got to work my butt off. I work my butt off to get this guy going down. I found they bought in a little more. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I just know what has worked for me.
Right.
But yeah, 100%. Like I teach the whole play because if you can only play right tackle, then you're 1 of 5. But if you can play, let's say maybe you can't snap with the lick, but let's say you can pull. Let's say you know what you're doing at tackle. Now you play 4 or 5. You're way more valuable, right? If a guy goes down, especially I tell my backup guys or my 6th man, like, hey, if you know everything, as soon as somebody goes down, you're my number 1. You're going in, right? Because I don't think, well, Johnny only can play left tackle. My left tackle's good, but I need a right guard. Well, I can't put him in. Who's playing guard? No. Learn everything, right? Now, there's some guys that can fit in the mold of certain positions. Some guys that can pull. Some guys that, can't play dead in the cowboy movie. But you got to figure that out, So I don't like. Yeah, I just try. I try to teach them all the whole play, and I found value in that.
By the way, that's a great line. I had to write that down. Can't play dead in the cowboy movie.
I stole that one from one of my head coaches. I love those guys that have the one-liners. I try to pick them up because I want to be that old guy one day that has 1,000 one-liners.
Oh yeah. That's phenomenal. You talked about tags. I became a big believer in tags with the offensive line. Kind of looked at it just like I did with my skill guys. Like, hey, if I could tag a guy in a slant, I could tag the offensive line to do something, and not have to change the name of the play, right? And so, and where I first did it was on sweep. We used to run sweep zone, and then we would zone it, wide zone it all the time, pitch sweep and or jet, and then I realized that there were teams that kind of started to pick up on, because we were no huddle, like on what we would call. So I said, okay, so we put a tag on there where the lineman would pull, and instead of them zoning, they would down other than the 2 pullers, like the Lombardi sweep we would run basically. And it became, and then the back knew that instead of it kind of trying to get out wide, you're looking for the first cut up opportunity if you can get it, right? And it kind of happened by accident over time. I was at a place, and just to give it quick background, that was a terrible program, one of the worst in the state, and we had to get real creative, So And then the kids got creative with you. You know what I mean? So we went from being one of the worst programs in the state to going to state championship in like 4 or 5 years. But some of these things became part of what we did, right? We were very effective at this stuff. So we tagged it, and all of a sudden teams would overrun. And that's why I know all of a sudden they were so that we used to have a great sweep, and then all of a sudden people started figuring it out, and then we put the tag, and they'd overrun. And amazingly, in the state semifinals, team did exactly that. The back put his foot in the ground. The lineman picked up actually barely didn't even really have to do that much. He just barely and he cut it up, and he went like 50 yards to the house untouched, literally untouched. And so talk about that was just one way we used it, but talk about how tags can be real effective for the offensive line and things that you utilize it for.
Yeah, so one of the biggest tags we use, because we run duo and power, right? So if we have a power call on, and let's say we're going to power to the right, the backside guard, which is the left guard, is going to pull and skip pull for linebacker. Well, if that backside linebacker walks down in his gap, he'll make a solid call. And that all that does, it doesn't change anybody else but the offensive line. So they know, hey, solid, we're running duo now. Because the H is still kicking on the front side, and the back still inserts, and they got everything. Nothing changes. There's just no pull, right? And that kind of gets on some people's nerves. Duos, power with no pull. It really is. We just that solid call instead of doubling to a backside linebacker. We know, hey, we're doubling play side now. Like it's automatic. We rep that, and then the center and the backside guard know, hey, center's they got the one or the shade technique. And in the backside guard, he's got the wheel that's blitzing, because on duo, that's who they're responsible for anyway. So that's a tag we use. Like I said, they can use it at any time, because we are good with running duo or power or whatever. So they're good to call it because it doesn't change anybody else. We've also used, especially against odd front teams, especially on our counter play, we'll make an arc call, play side tackle arc out to an overhang. Outside linebacker, and we'll trap the 4-eye or the 4 head up 4. If we want to run it just traditionally, either the tackle, he'll pick his outside foot up, put it down. He's kind of reading what that 4 is going to do. If he goes C gap, he's blocking down. If he he starts to penetrate or go inside, he blocks him down. So, and then the puller is outside whatever's off the in-man line scrimmage, off of that block. But if he calls an arc, backside guard knows, hey, we yell it, arc. A whole line does it. So now we know, hey, that guard, he's trapping a little closer now. And then the running back knows, hey, this thing's going to fit a little closer because we're going to trap the 4. So that's a little bit stuff like that. I mean, other tags, like Lincoln Riley had what he calls crab, which is, the play side fans, right? They block man on man. And then we GT the guard and the tackle wrapped inside. That's what if you're getting like really hard spill teams that come in to try to long arm and try to spill it outside. Well, we'll just make a fan call. So fan means we're so low on the front side. So now you can't spill a base block. Cool, you're gonna do that. You're spilling for no reason. You're not getting a pull at you. So we're especially, and it's really against 3 and 5 side. You do that, and then we just pull inside in the A gap on GT stuff. So it's really just it's solutions to plays. If something's giving you issue, just like we're talking about with the pin and pull on the front side of outside zone, right? If you can't double that 4 and get to that mic, all right, we'll just pin it and wrap around. Yep. We've had a lot of success doing that stuff.
It's phenomenal. It gives the offensive line to a ton of ownership of the success of the offense. Yep. Right? Like that's because they're always the guys that the running backs gets the glory, or the receiver, or the quarterback, or whoever, skill guy. And by giving them that ownership, it gives them a ton of pride in the success of everything. They start to know that, hey, success in this offense goes as we go completely. Yeah. We're not just trying to get a guy into space only and he just makes things happen. Like we make these blocks, things happen. So I think that mentality changes a team, right? Because the offensive linemen, at least my experience with them, they're the most stable individuals on the team by far. You always have a couple of guys that are different cats, but for they all the line, they all pull each other together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I always find that to be the most most rewarding thing in the best lines. They all work together on everything, and they take control of everything. So it's really cool. Technique wise, what are some of the things that you like start with guys, and then and especially since I'm guessing this happens where you coach too, you're always going to be taking some guy who was not an offensive lineman, right? And he's going to become an offensive lineman. And first, he's probably resistant and all these kind of things. Like he still thinks he's a tight end. That's always my favorite from youth football. And Derek loves when I say this stuff too, because I think Derek believes it too. Every guy who's a resistant lineman is a tight end in youth football. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt about it. Like,
100%.
everybody loves this kid. He's a pretty good athlete, even though he's a lineman in the future. So they make him a tight end. They get him a couple balls. He stays happy. He doesn't complain all the way through youth football. You run behind him. He's burying people. He's like you said, he's an extra tackle. But now all of a sudden he comes to high school, and you might have a tight end that is a wide receiver who's kind of kicked in. You know what I mean? And or some basketball player, right? So you get those offensive guys going into the offense. What are some of the things that you do technique wise and then mentality wise to kind of get them all on the same page?
Yeah, so I think it starts with my everyday drills and things that are non-negotiable, things we're going to do. And a lot of the things we do pre-practice, we try to get there early and knock it out because I don't want to use all my empty time doing some of this stuff.
Right.
But I believe in board drills, having the boards out there and working on footwork. Playing offensive line is not natural. It's not like there's nowhere else. There's nowhere else you could do playing offensive line. You're not gonna walk down the street and be like, oh yeah, I do that offensive line. Like no, other than there's not something like that. So we work on footwork, whether it be working a down block, working zone steps, duck walking down, and a lot of these things are old school. And some people, boards and chutes and sleds, I still use that stuff because it's good stuff to me. But yeah, we use boards to work on footwork every day. We'll pass set and we'll do different drills to pass set and they'll work off of me. We're gonna use a quick set or we're gonna power step back inside, mirroring me, stuff like that for footwork. So I started building from the ground up, and we'll progress on a lot of these drills. So especially right now where we can't do much contact, we can work with the guys. We'll just be working footwork, right? And then eventually I'll have bags out there and have guys on the boards, and they'll work their footwork, and then they'll bring their hands in, right? So thumbs up, elbows in your ribs, stuff like that, rolling your hips. So just repping that stuff a lot. I work hand placement on certain blocks. I work head placement on certain blocks. Especially on down blocks, you got to be very, very specific on where you put your head, and on front side or the back side, and keep your head out of it. But that's where your placement is, so you can get leverage on a guy. If especially on down blocks, you got a guy that is a penetrator, right? You need to get your ear hole on his belly button. You need to go. You need to put your hand. I put a hand on backside hand on his hip, place side hand on his chest, and we're running the guy. And just get him out of the way, right? It's a down block. It ain't gonna happen like that, right? So if he's more of a read guy, okay, get your head on his back, okay, right there on his back. So he's gonna either play over top, great, because if he's gonna play underneath, then we're winning, right? Because we're pulling. If he's gonna play over top, then get your head on his back and then work your hips around, stuff like that. We'll still work the sled, right? And for me, the sled is more of a conditioning tool. Right, it is working on chopping those feet, not stopping, because if you stop, it stops. So it's really just training, not stopping once you make contact. And we have different drills we do with that. We'll zone step and block it, left and right. We'll do it. We're blocking linebackers. I'll put them, 5 yards back. in a stance, and they have to not fall step, have to step forward, run, roll their hips, and fit on like they're fitting a linebacker. And all that stuff, it just builds upon progression to where we get a whole team out there. I'll talk to the D-line coach, and we'll start working on certain drills with actual people. So it's not we're just blocking stationary targets all day.
That's huge.
Yeah.
When you and I feel like, coach, when your O-line and a D-line coach are on the same page, where you can both kind of, kumbaya it and freaking figure out how to like actually get real work where it doesn't become like a competition battle or this or that or who's big, when we can work together so we can get on live bodies. I feel like that is the best prep work for line play that you can get, and it's hard to do that, right? Because ego comes into play at some point always, right? And my guys, your guys, and if you are a 2-platoon team, it's competition, and if you're not, then you probably are the O-line D-line guy, right? Like you probably are the only guy, but it's good on when you can get good on good. It's a game changer.
So we're servicing them when they're on defense, and they're servicing us when we're on offense, and we cut. The biggest thing we got to do is cut down on what we call brother-in-law, right? Like we just kind of I'll make you look good on this rep, I'll make you look good on that rep. Nah, we're gonna compete, but we're not trying to kill each other either, right? It ain't inside drill. When inside drill comes, trying to kill each other. But yeah, when we're still indie, like give us resistance, give us a look so we can try to problem solve. But yeah, that's where we kind of go with technique wise. And I kind of break my indie time up. I try to do my run fundamentals, and then I do my run skills. Fundamentals is like a lot of stuff we just talked about, on boards, on bags, stuff like that. And then the skills is against other people, and giving them live looks before we go to inside where the bullets are flying. And then we do our pass fundamentals and pass skills. And usually we're more of a run dominant team. We passed it for a lot of yards this year as well. But I try to steal time during special teams for my pass stuff, because a lot of times where we get 30 minutes a day for special teams. Well, none of my guys are on special teams. Now I got 30 minutes to go through pass stuff, pass pro, and we do one-on-ones. Try to do one-on-ones a lot. Whether it be at true one-on-one or it'd be true like blitz pickup, where we have the box coming at us. We do that stuff. It's trying to steal time, not having to do that stuff during team. Trying to be efficient.
I think that's a big part for the line is it's stealing time, because you do have those blocks of time when you can get stuff done, especially special teams when they're not on that part of it. As far as like things you do with them to build the relationships among the offensive line, among each other, with you. There's probably no tighter group usually than the O-line coaches. And now you're offensive coordinator now, so you are the O-line coach, but you date other positions.
Yeah, exactly.
Because obviously you're an O-line coach, but you're offensive coordinator. What are things you do to really build that camaraderie with those guys?
Yeah. One thing I'll say about the coordinator, it's one of the hardest things. Being an offensive line coach and being a coordinator is one of the toughest things ever. So one thing that helps me out is my head coach. He handles a lot of passing stuff, right?
Okay.
So and we tag team a lot. We collaborate everything. So when they're going to do 7-on-7 and they're doing all that stuff, I don't have to go to that because I know that he's good, right? So but inside and blitz and all that stuff, the run game, I'm down there getting it. But relationship wise, that's huge, right? And on my bio on my Twitter, it says my why. It says loving my players and helping coaches. So I really do believe in forming those relationships. A couple of things that we do, especially right now, I call it O-line 101. I bring to my classroom right on Mondays right now, and it's more of a not really a get to know you, but it's I go through my O-line manual, okay, and anything and everything they ever would need to know, and it's a fluid document. I try to add stuff, everything they need to know, terminology, standards of the program, standards of the O-line group, it's in there, and so we go through that. and I get to know the guys, right? And I know my guys pretty well, but it's just trying to know them on a little higher level. So I have them write down their goals. We talk about certain things. It's just developing the relationship. Like, hey, Coach Tatum's got my back. He cares about us. One thing that we do, my wife and I do on Thursdays after walkthrough, so we feed the kids.
I thought that was awesome, Coach. Thought that was awesome.
So we set a goal, right? And so our first goal, we play our first game of the year. We had a goal of 20 pancakes. Okay, and I'm thinking in my mind, 20 pancakes, and they got it, right? They only got 23. They crushed it. And so they wanted Wingstop. So we got a bunch of wings, and we fed them right after walkthrough. If it's JV game has an away, my wife brings the food and she feeds them, and I dip for the game. If we're at home, then I can sit there. I can be with them, and I get to eat Wingstop too. But yeah, exactly.
That's the best part.
Exactly. But I take my stipend because we don't get paid that much in North Carolina. I mean, I don't know how it is.
No, I know. Yeah.
Oh no, don't worry. It ain't anything to write home about that much in Jersey either, buddy.
Yeah,
It ain't crazy. Believe me, we're not this ain't Texas.
Yeah, in Texas. So I take my stipend, right, and we put it back towards the kids. And we set a goal. It's an obtainable goal, right? I'm not gonna be like rush for 400 yards and no sacks and do we want to run for 400 yards? Of course, but we're gonna find balance as well. Do whatever it takes to win. So we might not hit that, and then you don't feed them. We had a great game, so we ended up we'll set the goals. They're good. We had a goal when we played a top 10 team in our class and beat them. They didn't make the goal, but we beat a top 10 team in the class. So we still fed them. And it changes where they wanted wings, they wanted like Chick-fil-A, they wanted pizza, whatever it is, we'll go get it for them. And that I just trying to reinforce like, hey man, you got my back, I got your back, right? You listen to me, you do what you're asked of, and we'll reward and we'll help you out. And at the end of the day, they're all sitting there eating together. Right. That's right. They are collaborating. They joke, whatever it is, and they always, they joke when the next one guy goes and gets a few more extra wings than everybody else. Fatty, blah blah. They'll joke with each other. Yeah. All that stuff, and so I found a lot of value in that. And then,
no doubt.
And then just knowing them on a bigger level than just football player, right? They are a person. Right. And I try to, some people say, especially as a head coach, you need to know at least one thing about one of your guys. Well, I need to know a lot because I only have, we're a 2A school, which means we have like 680 kids in the school. So I might have on a good week, I might have 12 guys in my group, maybe more often than not, it's 8. So, I need to know a lot, right? And so, and whether it be checking up on them, whether I walk through when they're at lunch, just kind of, picking at them, or just talking how their day was, have some, how's things at the house. They find value in that stuff because not a lot of people are doing that. Their teachers aren't doing that. Sometimes their family aren't keeping up with them.
Very
right?
true.
They just come and go like, from the house. The house really sleeps, right? They're not really there. So just kind of just showing an investment, and I say I love them every day, and we break it down. And I think at the beginning it's kind of like, okay, but now they're like, Coach Tatum really does. This is my 3rd year going into it. And it's consistency, right? The consistency is what's big. They know that I'm not just saying that so I'll block harder. Like, no, Coach Tatum says it even when I don't block. I love you. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. We're gonna get this thing right? You're gonna hold up to the standard. At the end of the day, I do still love you, right? You're not. I love you enough to tell you that you're not holding the standard, right? So those are the things that I try to do to build those relationships, and we'll take them places. We haven't done as much at where I'm at now. My previous stop, we took them bowling, we took them arcade, or wherever we could find to take them, just to be out. I don't live close enough to the school. I live about 30 minutes from the school, so I don't live close enough to bring them to the house and cook out.
Right.
Our D-line coach does, so we've done that. We take them to the D-line coach's house and have a cookout. He has a pool, all that stuff, especially for the summer. But just investing time in those guys.
Yeah, I think that stuff's so important when your players see you than just more that. I tell guys all the time, like, you can't be the August to December coach. You can't just be that guy that they only see you for 2 hours a day from those time periods, throughout the year. Like, they're just not how it works. You got to show your face in the weight room, right? If you're a stipend guy that's not in the building, you gotta go to, if they're a multi-sport guy, go to their other stuff, right? Invest the time into the other things that they do. Go watch them play another sport. Hell, I've had guys that were in the play, and I'd be going to a play, like, you know what I mean, just to show them that you care more about them than what they can do for you and produce like that. And I've seen when guys see that, like, it flips, right? And it's a lot more of that, all right, like, I'm gonna, whatever coach says, we're gonna work at it, we're gonna do it, and it's because he cares about me more than just, like, when I put this jersey on. It's important.
Yeah, with the offensive line, one of the cool things is that when you go and either you take them out to eat or you bring food to them, however you do it, when you're all sitting around, like, they start telling stories, and it is so funny. I mean, you're
when they start doing the impressions of you and stuff.
Oh yeah,
like, coach, like, all right, yeah, oh man, it's a whole different level of joy.
One of the other things I used to do, which I found really effective, was fullbacks and tight ends would always be like, yo, I do a lot of blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do I get in on that? I said, well, when we do indie, you got to be more willing to come over to our side.
Yeah.
And then we could give you a pancake number and a number that you can get food as well.
Those tight ends don't want to catch passes so quick, right? Anymore, right? Like, they're not going with 7 on anymore. Now they're going inside run.
They get the chance to get the best of both worlds, which they definitely do, because that's who they are, fullbacks and tight ends. And they want to dip their toe in both lands. And then the quarterbacks, like smart quarterbacks, start to say, hey man, the line's going to eat here. Cool. I'm gonna come. Like, I don't expect coach to cover me, but I just want to come there and be with those guys. And so it becomes a cool thing. And I always say to the skill guys, is as a head coach, he used to be the guy who I brought in as my offense. When I was an offensive line coach, I did it with my guys. I told him, you want to get the most out of your guys, start doing this stuff. It'll get the most out of them. They'll enjoy it. They'll get to know you. And when you're yelling at them about something, they'll remember more the fact that you guys eat together and have a good time together than they will the fact that you yell at them at that moment for missing the block or whatever. But I think what's interesting about it is the skill guys get jealous, right? And I used to tell them all the time. I'm like, well, okay, you're a skill guy. What is your reward in the game? They're like, what do you mean? Catches, carries, touchdowns, right?
Everything.
Same thing. The quarterback, it's all that plus probably you get to date the prettiest girl in the school. Okay, you get a lot of rewards. This is their opportunity to have something that gets to be for them pancakes or touchdowns for them, and we want to reward them for it because nobody is interviewing them over that stuff, right? And that's an important thing. And you should learn to celebrate the fact that they have that opportunity. And guys get on board with that real quick because they realize, wow, you know what I mean? And then they start to ask, like, what can I do to be a part of your crew? And now I would say, you got to ask the O-line. Yeah. You got to ask them if they want you to be a part of the crew, right? If they think you're good to them, you could be a part of the crew. You know what I mean? Like, and it built like this kind of like camaraderie, like to realize, hey man, those guys are working hard to make you look good, right? Like that's the bottom line. Like it's a team thing, but they're making you, the guy who gets interviewed in the papers is usually the running back, receiver, quarterback, type of guy. So, so that's an important thing. And I found it's like really cool because the skill guys gain this enormous amount of respect and appreciation for what those guys actually do because, wow, the coaches are rewarding these guys. They're spending time with them. And I think that's what builds it actually builds the whole entire team from that process, because they understand that respect, because, all you ever see on TV, right? That lineman missed a block. That,
Right.
what do they show on the NFL?
You only know an NFL
Right.
line. You only know a lineman's name when something negative happens, right?
Yeah.
It's like nobody knows who the long snapper is either, bro, until he sails 50 yards over the dude's head, right? And then it's like, or hey, this guy's holding, or this guy's this. Like, it's just, you don't get the glory. And really, I tell guys all the time, like, you do understand, fellas, that the O-line, there's 5 spots, right? I said, and you don't need a ball to be good at it, right? Everybody wants to be the quarterback. Everybody wants to be a receiver. It's like, hey, there's one football, and it's only going to one guy on a play. And guess what? These 5 guys ain't touching it. And every team needs 5 guys, right? Yeah. So it's just like, even when you want to take that approach, is to get into the next level, right? Like, you're just by sheer numbers, you have a better shot if you play O-line.
Yeah. I think I've heard it said your offensive line are like air conditioning. Like, you don't know about them until it stops working.
Yeah.
You don't ever notice it, right? So as soon as they make a mistake. But one thing that we do, so we have to have so many practices in camp before we can put pads on and tackle and hit. And so I think it's 10. So on our 9th practice, we practice at night. Right, so it's usually that Friday night going into Saturday morning, however it works out. So at Friday night, we'll go and we'll practice at 11 o'clock, right? And so we'll practice all the way till midnight. Midnight's a new day. We start practicing again. That's our big practice. So it's a midnight madness, right?
That's awesome.
So we invite the community, and we'll do stuff like that, and they can come watch us hit. So we'll have the skill guys and what Kirby Smart calls, New Age Oklahoma, and have those guys, it's receivers versus DBs, and they got a block for somebody coming through.
Yeah.
They realize real quick, hey, this blocking thing ain't the easiest thing in the world, right? So that's another way they get a newfounded appreciation. And if you throw bubbles and different like perimeter screens, like, you got to work those things in. So we do a lot of stuff during the week as well. So you don't hear as much of at least from the team, because the stands are a bunch of idiots anyway. So the block.
What do you mean,
somebody.
Coach? So that's where the best coaches are. Don't you know that? Like, those guys are the best play callers in the country on Friday nights.
It's like everybody in the stands, they can call plays on Friday night. They usually say every man. Everybody can call plays on Friday night, and they can grill meat on a grill. Like, everybody. Like, okay, whatever. But trying to get those guys to kind of buy into, hey man, this blocking thing is hard. So don't yell, hey, block somebody, or you missed a block, blah, blah, blah. Like missed blocks happen, right? We try to, cut those down, but, at the end of the day, if we're blocking on a 90 to 90% clip, the other 10 to 15%, the other 10 to 5%, you need to be a dude as an athlete and make somebody miss sometime. Like, you're not gonna,
like, if you're going to get on me for missing a block, then I'm going to let you know when you should have caught that ball, or you should have made this cut, or you should have done this. Like, this ain't how this works, man. Like, we're all trying to achieve a goal, and this is what we all need to be on the same damn page.
Mm-hmm. It's like, if you listen to any college guy give a clinic, especially like be a running backs coach or offense coordinator, they'll show, hey, the line's job is to get the running back to the second level. After that, he's got his own scholarship.
It's on your own, bro. Yeah.
And so that's what we try to do as well. It's like, hey man, if we get you to the linebackers, like, great. We got 5 to 7, we got 5 to 6 yards. After that, go earn your playing time. Like,
that's it.
If you have a guy behind you that can do that, hey man, you better step it up. So
no doubt. My final question for you: what is some of the biggest questions that other line coaches ask you? Because I know you have.
I like that.
You have your podcast, and you're working with so many. What are a couple of the biggest questions they ask you about O-line play?
Usually, it is everyday drills. Like, what drill should I do? Like, I'm kind of lost. Like, or what drills to use that correlate to the game, right? And so, and one of my biggest answers to that is I walk through a ton, right? some people are like, oh, walk through, right? Why are you walking through? Because it's not really a walk through. It's not like, oh, step and walk. Like, no, we're running through it, right? But it's I call walk through is getting reps of what we're going to do in team. We're full speed. We have a defense out there, but it ain't, you're not trying to kill anybody, right? We're making sure that we're communicating. It's getting perfect reps in a controlled environment. I do that a lot. It would be pre-practice, coming out of install. Maybe it's on Monday. We just installed a new play. And we walk through it a lot, right? It's rapid fire. I try to get them moving really fast, get them heart rate up. They're not able to think as much, reaction. So I tell guys, hey man, do this run through of your plays, and I feel like you'll see a lot more benefit. But then I go through what I do for Indy, and I tell them what I do might not work for you, right? I just know I know my kids. I know what I want to call on Friday night. So I know what we need to get better at. And I know, like we're a gap scheme team. So we're going to work downs and doubles every day. Like that's just what we're going to do. And so just finding little nuances of drills to like, hey, we have our overarching, down block drill. We have our overarching pull drill. But now how do we hone it? And, I don't know, y'all probably have seen the Patriot, where they aim small, miss small. Like, so now we're going to make it smaller, and we're going to have our individual little techniques that we're going to drill as well. And then we go back making it big again. We're going to make, all, half line, down block, half line, pull. So just finding, what you realize what you want to do offensively, know what you want your guys to be able to do, and then just drill it. So that's usually it's what drills should I do? You got to figure that out. Like I try to help as much as I can. Like, hey, here's some ideas of what I do, some ideas of what some friends of mine do. I try and also providing a resource to other coaches. So that's one big thing. And usually it's just scheme, right? It's, well, what do you call this, or what do you call that, or what do you do this?
Hey, we're trying to run outside zone. We're trying to run inside zone. We're trying to do. It's like at the sometimes it's like, but you're trying to do too much, right? Like just figure out what works best for you, and drill it over and over and over again. It's the same thing with the pass game, right? Like so many guys want to do so much stuff. It's like, man, just get really good at this, and then then you can go to right, but you got to have some type of foundation where at the end of the day, we can call this and I don't care what they're in. And we got to have the confidence that we're going to get it done no matter what.
Yeah. I've had some people be like, well, what do you install? I'm like, what we do is not good for you. Why? Because I've been at my place for 3 years now. Yeah. So my guys know our base stuff. So now we're trying to get a little more multiple.
Of course,
doing those tags that we mentioned. We're doing whole scheme tags. So what I do might not be great for some people.
Guys struggle with that, coach, right? Because they want to just, I think a lot of coaches, for as innovative and want to try things on their own, they also want somebody to hand them a textbook that they can read and just say, all right, well, if I do this is going to work. And then they come back to you and they're like, that didn't work. It's like, well, buddy, I told you what works for me ain't going to work, might not work for you. You got to figure out your own niche within what you have. And it all comes back to knowing who you are as a team, or, look, I'm sure we've all been part of situations where that head coach wants something and it's like, this is what we're doing. It's like, coach, we don't have that. We don't have those dudes, right? Like that's a tough situation to be in. But like you said, it comes down to what you have and what you're good at, and then just repping it over and over and over again to get really good at it.
Yeah, I went to a clinic. Glazier had their clinic in Charlotte this past weekend, and I told people like this is one of the better clinics last year's Glazier wasn't great. This year's was really good.
Yeah, they upped the ante this year. They really rebounded a lot. Even our one that's in Atlantic City up here in Jersey was real good compared to what it's been the last couple of years.
Yeah. And so I was like, I'm just trying to everybody jokes me like, man, you do this, you do that, you have a YouTube, what are you doing in clinics? Like one, it's socialized. I see all my buddies, right?
That's it.
Yeah. I get to meet people that maybe know me.
Network, man.
I'm just network. I'm just trying to get something, right? One coaching cue, one new drill that a coach is like, this is, made my time more efficient. I'm not trying to go learn a scheme. Like, I know what I like to run. Like, I'm good, right? I'll try to learn a tag off of something that we do, something that makes us more multiple. I'm not trying to go learn a new system. Like, that's not for me. I'm good. I know what we're going to do. But some people do that, and I try to encourage them not to. Now, if you're just have no baseline and you don't know much, you're just trying to get into it. Either I usually tell two things. One, either attach yourself to somebody, whether you need to go work for somebody that does a certain thing, or you need to go and maybe you need to learn somebody's scheme. But then I tell them, once you learn it, then you need to try to make it your own. Because if you can't teach it, or you can't problem solve it because you don't know all the answers, then you're not going to be very good, right? You can run X coach's system, but you can call it same things. You can rep it the same way and all that stuff. But as soon as you get out there on the field and bullets start flying, and you don't know how to fix certain problems, you're going to get blown out. So definitely tell people, either attach yourself to somebody that knows what they're doing, or, take a system and then make it your own and problem solve it. No, reverse engineer it, as you could say.
No doubt about it. That's dude, you have so many great things that you're doing. And how you're advising guys, and you're still a young guy too. It's pretty amazing. Tell everybody your Instagram and your Twitter, so we can get them there and they can follow your stuff, because like everything we touched on, that's just a piece of.
God, that's not even 10% of it, man. I mean, like I said, that clinic alone that you put on, Coach, is incredible, unbelievable, helped out. I mean, so many guys from all over. I mean, all over, man. I think you had a goal of hitting all 50 states, right? Yeah,
I got 48. But I don't know if they have football in the state of Wyoming, coaches. I don't know. Like, I've been trying to find coaches in the state of Wyoming the whole time. So, I was able to. I think it was 49. Cause last minute I got somebody from Nevada, which is crazy because they have good football in Nevada.
They do,
right?
Somebody to come.
Yeah, but Coach, they're just chucking it around out there, bro. They ain't trying to run anybody over, man.
Yeah. Exactly. So so that was the thing. But yeah, socials, guys, X and Instagram is at Coach Tatum 90. It's right there on the screen. At Coach Tatum 90. Give us a follow. I appreciate anybody that wants to do that. And then at YouTube, it's just at Coach Tatum. If you bring it up, you're going to see me and some coach bags, right? So on YouTube, but we try to post very consistently. We have been, and we highlight one thing I love doing. It doesn't get as many views, which is fine with me. I don't care. It is highlighting clinics for other people, right? I have coaches come on and give a clinic, however long, maybe 32 minutes to an hour, and just talk about what they do, right? And I love doing it. It's a Tatum Clinic series. I'm a front row participant of clinics. Right. I don't care if nobody watches it. I do every time, obviously. So, but I think it's one of the best things that we do. That doesn't get as much recognition. But
absolutely.
But yeah, we put those out. Try one of those every week. Try to do a personal one every week. And then the all-day clinics. There's a playlist on my YouTube. There's 3 O-line ones, and there's 2 coordinator ones. So really good stuff. That would be, however much. That's so many hours of free football that you can check out. It's 60 hours, right? You can go and check out.
Hell, I thought it was awesome. I could have kudos to you, man, because the logistics of that, of just trying to get all those guys. I'm sure it's somewhat, now that, you're out there and people know you and you're like, hey, who wants to do it? I'm sure it's a lot more of you kind of telling people no, right? Like, sorry, we can't. But at that same time, man, just to watch how you worked for that day, I was like, damn, this is impressive, right? I mean, we run 7-on-7 tournaments, so it's a shit show every time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but we do the best we can with it. But I just understood exactly when you're sitting in the chair and my man is already 5 minutes late and then he can't figure out how to link it up and this and that. And I'm like, I feel bad right now because I know exactly what he's going through. But you do a great job, man. Really appreciate you taking the time to come talk to us, especially about the O-line, who, in my eyes, you you are never going to be successful if you don't have those big dogs up front that are willing to do their job for not a lot of recognition, and they don't get enough of it. So I appreciate you, Coach. Really, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate you just coming on, just talking, for the morning. I can talk football all day. So I really do appreciate y'all having me on.
Love it.
Coach, it's been great having you on. Can't thank you enough, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, man, appreciate you.
All right, Coach.
Bye.
Yeah.
That was great. I learned a lot.
He's got a lot of good shit, man. Free, like it's all like his stuff. It's on the level where everybody can understand it, right? Like it's easily accessible. I mean, he's constantly. I mean, he does a podcast. He does, you know what I mean? Dave, I'm telling you that free clinic, it's incredible, and it's one of those like, hey, all right, I don't feel like watching this one. You come back in 2 hours and it's still rocking and rolling. You know what I mean? Like he gets guys from all over the country. He does a really good job of helping out other coaches, learn the offensive line. Because look, I know what it was for me when I dove into learning some line play, and I sure as hell couldn't be a guy that could take an O-line job and feel okay with it right now. You know what I mean? But I learned the most, right, about everything in football under the sun when you start sitting in on some of those O-line meetings or diving into offensive line play in general. Man, it's awesome.
No, there's no doubt about it. The offensive line is the most important thing probably to the offense. And
it's hard. You're coaching 5 guys. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't like you're just coaching the quarterback, or whatever. It's 5 guys at one time that you got to watch and keep eyes on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's ain't easy to do.
No doubt about it. All right. Well, until next week, I think, right? No, nothing tomorrow?
Big weekend for us. Here we go. Just another one, right? Another one.
Great.
3 weekends in a row, baby.
I think it's the first time we've done 3 weekends in a row. I definitely think that.
Oh, I'm 100%.
Yeah, that was the part I was like, have we ever done 3 weekends of summers?
No,
I don't think we have.
Definitely not. Never have. And we've also never been, we might have, but they sure as hell weren't the size of what it's
all
been.
of them are good size. All of them in good size. That's the difference too. Is that there's nothing that's just it's not a layup one or something like that.
Not that any of them are layups by any means. So anybody that just thinks they can flip a switch and run a 7-on-7 tournament, good luck. Give us a call. You got Zort's issues? Call us too.
All right. Well, till next week. Are we on Monday or Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, actually. All right, perfect. We'll see you then.